The USS Cooperstown was named to honor the 70 Hall of Famers who sacrificed their baseball career to serve in the United States military during wartime.
Never really did I ever have any second thoughts about being involved. I think I did the right thing.
I could probably stayed out of the service, but I didn't do that. I'm not sorry I didn't do it either.
He missed a season in his prime to serve his country in the Navy.
For the United States of America, I christen thee Cooperstown. May God bless this ship and all who sail in her.
I would like to be remembered as a fellow that gave everything that I possibly could.
The USS Cooperstown commissioned there on Saturday. Obviously, Joe Torre is going to be there. His brother fought in World War II. And Johnny Bench, of course, there too. He's our pal, Hall of Famer. His dad, Ted Bench, fought in North Africa and Italy during World War II, and he says hello. Ted is the guy who told John to be a catcher, easiest way to the major leagues, and obviously a World War II vet. How about your dad's influence, Johnny? Let's start with that. I'm sure he's a no-nonsense guy, part of the greatest generation. How about him teaching you some baseball in the late 50s, early 60s? Go ahead. Let me hear that.
Well, Chris, he dropped out of high school as the war started. He dropped out. He still had 6 months to go. And he dropped out of high school to join the Army. I served at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And his whole dream in life was to be a major league catcher. That's all he ever wanted to do. But the war came along, and like so many of our Hall of Famers that served, so many of our players that served, not just the Hall of Famers. But he served in North Africa and Italy, served 8 years. He re-upped. He came back with a dream that was really now shattered because he was 25 years old, and he really didn't have it. And I used to go watch him play sandlot baseball. We actually played against Satchel Paige at that time. And it was amazing that I was able to face Satchel Paige in 1966 in the Carolina League. But Dad made contact, and that's all he ever cared about was the fact that I hit Satchel Paige. And to him, that was the biggest thing. But he wanted one of his sons to follow in his footsteps. I was fortunate enough to be found in that small town of Binger, Oklahoma. And I guess the rest is history. I'm just glad the analytics and all the sabermetrics and is that after Brett Saberhagen? No, the sabermetrics and all the stuff wasn't around because I might not have been drafted. It's hard to think that a kid from a town of 660 people could ever make it to the major leagues.
Did Ted see you play in the 75, 76 World Series? Was you still alive to enjoy those great years that you had, the MVP in 76? Obviously, the home run against Justy, we've discussed an awful lot. Was your father alive to share it with you, John?
Oh, yes. I moved him up to Cincinnati. He came to all the games. And in 1989, when I was inducted, he was sitting there in the front row. And I told people, I said, I'm not the one really going in. That was the World Series of 76. I'm not the one really going in. It's my dad. And that was a pretty good game there. That was game 4 of the World Series in 76. But, yeah, he's every swing and his shoulders, and he would demonstrate up there in the stands, and you could hear him and do it. And every now and then you could hear him when Don Gullett's dad brought the moonshine, you could hear him a little bit louder.
How about that? It's funny. I didn't realize it. I watched your documentary again, which the MLB Network did. I didn't realize you had such a off year for you in the 76 season. I know you were so great up until then. Not great in the regular year, but then you were wonderful in the postseason, obviously cap of that Yankees series. What made you find it? Give me a little rundown of why the stark difference, regular season, and then, of course, the World Series against the Yankees.
Well, in 75, I got ran over at home plate. I had 6 cortisone shots every 6 weeks. Every 6 weeks, they would give me 6 cortisone shots. And I had trouble getting my hands to load. I would go like this, but when I was this point here where the AC joint is, the cartilage was severely damaged. And so I had to get those shots every week, and I couldn't get loaded. And so when I couldn't get loaded, I thought of Rocky Colavito, and I started pointing the bat at the pitcher so that when I pointed it, I could bring it back and I could load. And if you'll look at the playoff stats, when we played against the Phillies and then into the World Series, I hit, I don't know what I hit in the playoffs, and the World Series was a good one as well. But I just sort of found out I could get my hands started, and the timing began.
It did. You know, and I was thinking about this. We're going to do a turn back time on Willie Mays about his home run that he hit that pass Ott. You were, probably on the bench when Bobby Tolan hit that ball out to center field, I think it was in 70, when Willie made that great catch in right center and Bonds watched at Candlestick. Do you remember that great catch that Willie made there in the 70 Candlestick Park early in the year with the Reds? Go ahead.
Unbelievable, up against the wire fence and everything else. They both kind of were merging at the same time, and it was like all of a sudden, Bonds is actually looking at him saying, "How is that possible?" Willie was. I start to laugh every time you mention Willie's name because he was one of my most favorite people ever in my life, and he meant so much to me in the All-Star game in '70 and in the Astrodome in 1968. I take it back. 1968, he was sitting across from me, and he walked over to me and he said, "You should have been the starting catcher," and it meant so much to me. And Willie was the guy that throughout my career was always funny and witty and always a gentleman. And even after I retired, we have a very close relationship. And I miss him so much. But Willie was just, Willie was Willie. It was just amazing. And sometimes we try to find ways to find other players that are better, but it's hard to think that anybody could be better than Willie Mays.
He's 92 on Saturday. What was the better Reds team? The one that lost to the Mets in 73 or the one that lost to the A's in 72?
Wow. The one that lost to the Mets was good. Was great. It was doing. We became a great ball club when the trade with Houston came around. Joe Morgan was the guy that came over to second base, but Jack Billingham won 19 games. We had Dennis Minke. We had one of the great center fielders of all time, really, Cesar Geronimo, who was the most unheralded player that anybody could ever have. He hit 300. Defense was incredible. He won the Gold Glove. And it's hard to think that, in 1976, when we swept the Yankees with Dan Dreesen as the designated hitter, that we weren't pretty good as well. But, those years of 75 and 76, we led the league in ERA. And nobody talks about Gullett and Billingham and Nolan and Freddie Norman and Zachary and all the guys that really meant so much to that pitching staff, plus our bullpen of Bourbon and Carroll, Will McEnany, Raleigh Eastwick. We were just a complete, solid team that really played through injuries and we played, we were out there every day. We may have been hurt, but we were playing.
I didn't realize until I watched it again that Dorsey, you knew, had nothing in his, third inning of work when Fisk hit the home run there in the 12th and 76. You knew that bad scenario was forthcoming with Pat on the mound trying to gut out another inning. How about that for a sec? Go ahead.
He went out, he pitched 11th, and it was just unbelievable. His stuff was boom, boom, boom. And the next thing you know, we go out to warm up in the 12th, and it was like I was trying to go, hurry, get here. And it was like it just wouldn't arrive. And I looked over at Sparky in the dugout, and I said, no chance. And Carl was the guy. No, what were you going to do? You're going to say, hey, boy, he's really throwing good. And we all had was Clay Kirby was left, and his arm was broke, basically. He couldn't come out of the pen. So it was just a matter of what happened. You knew it was coming. But, that thing had so many things. Bernie Carmo, we were drafted in the same round, or he was in first, I was second in 1965. We were roommates in Tampa. We were roommates in the Carolina League. He was we called him the Rocket. He had 2 pinch hit home runs in that series. And he said, and it was just like he had the worst swing ever, and then he had the greatest swing ever. And the greatest catch, I don't care where you want to go, except I saw this guy the other day turn backwards with his glove like that. I think it was in the Angels, and made the catch, whatever it was. But Dwight Evans made that catch in right field that it turned out to be a double play that really changed the way that went. In the 9th inning, I got crossed up on a pitch that Will McEnany threw me. He was supposed to throw me a slider. He threw me a fastball. It popped up down the left field line. George Foster catches it, throws it to me. I tag Denny Doyle out, and it's a double play. And I said, Will, for goodness sake, you crossed me up. And he said, Yeah, well, sometimes those things work out, don't they? And walk back to the mound. And I'm just standing with the umpire. And he said, "What's going on?" I said, "You wouldn't understand. This is very scientific." Oh, a lot of things have gone on.
Yeah, 100%.
100.
How hard? Well, last thing, Johnny. How hard was it to be the last Red standing? You know, they traded Perez, Rose leaves, Morgan goes to a lot of different teams. I mean, in a lot of ways, you were the last great Red sitting there in the late 70s. Give me a little rundown on that for a sec. Go ahead.
Well, I probably had a little longer standing in Cincinnati. I was working for the bank for 37 years. I worked with them. I was going to be the broadcaster for the Reds. I looked like, hopefully, everything else, and I just couldn't see myself leaving a town that I loved. And you know, when they traded away Perez, it kind of took the steam out of our ball club. We lost our heart and soul. And then, of course, Pete going one way and Joe going the next, and Don Gullett had left to go to the Yankees. It was tough. It was tough, and you could see the writing on the wall, and that's one of the reasons that I retired. Well, my elbow, I couldn't hold a throw anymore, and my back was bad, and I was just, you know, the warranty ran out on all the parts, and it was just easy decision for me to say, hey, this is not it. I'm not earning my money. I walked away from a lot of money. I'm not earning it. And the ball club's going nowhere. They need to spend it elsewhere. And so the decision was made that I was going to retire. But it was sad to see that team dismantled. And of course, you know, in those days, Bob Housen was the general manager, and he wasn't going to spend the money. He thought free agency would be the downfall of baseball, and so he wasn't going to spend the money. And as a result, the Reds were never going to develop what they needed to the farm system. And if you don't develop the farm system, you're going to suffer. And we're suffering right now in Cincinnati.
100%, Johnny. Always a pleasure. You have a very good weekend. Looking forward to that USS Cooperstown deal on Saturday. You'll be wonderful. Always a pleasure. We will talk soon. Thanks for coming on twice in 2 months. Nice of you to do that.
All right. Thank you.